I stand here, utterly motionless, in the relentless December snow, just outside the entrance to my apartment building. The bitter wind of the holiday season biting right through the collar of my jacket and nipping painfully at my cheeks. But honestly, the external cold is nothing compared to the shock freezing my insides right now. I can feel the cardboard box in my hands growing heavy, not just with its contents, but with the weight of years of misplaced hope. The snowflakes are melting instantly into the brown packaging, making the material soggy and pathetic, just like I feel holding it. I can't tear my eyes away from the ridiculously bold, angry red label stamped right across the front of the box, a message so brutally clear it feels like a personal insult. Recipient refused, return to sender. My fingers are trembling completely uncontrollably as I trace the sharp edge of the unopened gift wrap that is visible through a small tear in the inner paper. This wasn't just some store-bought thing I picked up on a whim. This was 3 entire weeks of evenings, spent after my long shifts, meticulously crafting those delicate, personalized Christmas lights, my first professional paycheck gift, a culmination of hours of focused, detailed, and delicate work, each tiny light representing a small, desperate piece of my heart that I had tried to send home to Boulder, hoping this time, they would finally see the effort, the dedication, the love. Now I know the crushing truth: even love, when it is unreciprocated and unwelcome, can be summarily returned to sender, and I whisper the phrase to the swirling, indifferent snow, my words immediately vanishing, leaving no trace, no impact. The package feels disproportionately heavier now than it did when I mailed it 2 weeks ago, like a lead weight of rejection, and I clutch it tightly against my chest, seeking some non-existent comfort as a violent rush of memories, uninvited but brutally persistent, floods my mind, forcing me to relive the truth of my childhood. Growing up in our middle-class Boulder home, the family roles were always so rigidly and crystal clear, so well defined they were practically a script we all had to follow. Pearl was the sweet one, the designated angel who needed constant protection, celebration, and attention, and I was royalty. The strong one, the independent one, the one who, by definition, didn't need any attention or fuss. Dad, a retired electrical engineer, and Mom, who had given up her teaching career to focus entirely on maintaining this family dynamic, made absolutely sure those roles never ever blurred. I vividly recall my 10th birthday. Mom was frantic, barely scrambling to Frost's store, bought cupcakes an hour before my friends were due to arrive, while Dad hung a single, lazy paper streamer across the living room. That was it. Just 3 months earlier, Pearl's milestone party had featured handcrafted, personalized invitations, a custom, designed cake that looked like a fairy garden, and our backyard had been entirely transformed into a fairy wonderland. The difference was stark, undeniable, and yet Mom had simply dismissed the neighbor's curious question with a tight, patronizing smile. Royalty doesn't mind keeping things simple. She's always been so independent. She was using my perceived strength against me even then. Christmas mornings always told the same disheartening story, a visible manifestation of the favoritism. Pearl's expensive, coveted, beautiful gifts would literally spill out from under the tree, a colorful, chaotic mountain of affirmation, while my gift sat in a small, neat, practical stack off to the side, almost an afterthought. New, expensive art supplies for Pearl's creative spirit, sensible clothes and necessary school supplies for me, the practical one. I shift the rejected box in my arms again, the cold now fully seeping through my thick jacket, no longer just on the surface, and the painful truth I've spent years suppressing and denying rises fully to the surface, inescapable and ugly. I realize now that all my supposed independence was a desperate, lifelong plea for validation disguised as independence. "You're fine on your own. Royalty," Dad would repeat whenever I accomplished anything without needing their help, a phrase intended to sound like praise, but always feeling like a subtle dismissal. He never said, "I'm proud of you," or, "Well done," just confirmation that I required absolutely nothing from them, therefore I deserved nothing from them. I swallow hard, the familiar, crushing knot of pain forming instantly in my throat. All these years of being told I was fine on my own created this impenetrable, self-sufficient exterior that every single person sees, the one that makes me successful and capable. But what about the inside? Inside lives a woman who still, desperately, fundamentally, craves the basic, free acknowledgement and unconditional love she never once received. My pattern of overgiving to earn love that was never freely given is horrifyingly clear now. Sending carefully chosen, often handmade, Gifts year after year despite minimal acknowledgement. Always trying to bridge a gap they didn't seem to see. Always bearing the soul crushing weight of always being fine when, deep down, I was constantly breaking. I looked down at the returned Christmas lights again. My first truly handcrafted gift to them. Something beyond the usual store bought items. Something that required my unique skill set and focused effort. 3 weeks of my precious evenings spent designing and creating something uniquely meaningful. Something that carried a piece of my professional identity. The note I had tucked inside had read, with painful sincerity, "Made with my hands, sent with my heart." And they had refused it, not even bothering to open it, to peek inside. The hurt is no longer just a knot. It crashes over me in sickening waves. But something new, something foreign, something powerful rises alongside it. Indignation. A spark of genuine, righteous anger that feels totally alien, but somehow entirely right and necessary. I walk slowly up the stairs to my modest apartment, my movements heavy and deliberate. And instead of tossing the rejected package into the trash as the old, defeated me might have done, I place it carefully, almost reverently, on a high shelf in my living room, like a strange trophy. It is a small decision in the grand scheme of things, but it feels profoundly significant, a symbol of a turning point. I deserved better than this. I whisper fiercely to the empty, quiet room. My phone rings, the irritating sound cutting through the stunned silence. Pearl's name flashes cheerily on the screen, and I answer automatically, the way a programmed puppet always obeys its master. Royalty. Pearl's voice bubbles through the speaker, impossibly cheerful and completely, offensively oblivious to the crushing package I hold in my arms.
"I'm so glad I caught you!"
"I need your help with Christmas shopping. There's this adorable boutique downtown that has the perfect gifts, but I absolutely can't decide what to get for Dad." No mention of my return package. No hint that she even knows about the gift I spent 3 weeks creating. Nothing but her own immediate needs. In the background, I hear Mom's distinct, sharp voice, too loud, too familiar. "Ask if Royalty can send money for the new curtains while you're at it." "Oh. And Mom wants to know if you can help with the new curtains for the living room." Pearl adds without a single pause or change in tone. A seamless transition from one demand to the next. "The ones we saw at Restoration Hardware would be perfect, but you know how Dad is about spending money on decorating." No questions about my life, my job, my current state of being, or my Christmas plans, only a fresh set of expectations and obligations. I look from the rejected package sitting defiantly on my shelf to the phone in my hand. The powerful, unfamiliar word, no, forms in my mouth, solid and threatening, right on the tip of my tongue, ready to spill out and change everything. Instead, I hear the programmed, defeated voice of the old me say, "Yes, of course I'll help. Because that's the only role I know. That's what I do, that's who I am, the one who helps, the one who gives, the one who's always fine." But the silent, symbolic box on my shelf, my monument to rejection, tells a much different, much truer story now. And someday soon, maybe my answer will too. 2 days later, my student ID swipes through the cafeteria time clock for the 3rd time that day, marking the start of my 3rd shift morning at the library, afternoon classes, and now evening service at the campus dining hall. The exhausted manager nods warily as I tie my apron, the dark circles under my eyes mirroring his own. "Another double?" he asks, not truly expecting an answer, and I force a tired, automatic smile. Tuition doesn't pay itself, unlike Pearl's tuition, which apparently pays itself just fine with the help of Mom and Dad. Last weekend's necessary, draining visit home confirmed all the details I had tried to ignore. Her gleaming new Volkswagen parked prominently in the driveway. The casually mentioned downtown Boulder apartment she now occupied. Both, naturally, 100% parent-funded. My phone buzzes angrily in my pocket, and I ignore it until my short break, where I check to find 3 missed calls from Pearl already. I step outside into the crisp, unforgiving Colorado night, taking a deep breath of the cold air, and return her call. Finally, Pearl answers on the very first ring, her voice full of feigned exasperation. "I've been trying to reach you all day. Working." I simply say, leaning my weary body against the rough brick wall, "What's up?" "Mom and Dad are taking me to Aspen this weekend," she sings, utterly oblivious to the irony. "Can you send me some spending money? My account's a little low." The irony is a heavy, palpable thing that doesn't escape me even in my exhaustion. My bank account currently shows a negative balance, student loans accumulating interest at a terrifying rate while I work these 3 soul-crushing jobs just to survive. Pearl's entire life flows debt-free, sustained effortlessly by the very same parents who aggressively preached the gospel of financial independence to me. I get paid Friday, I say, already calculating the absolute minimum I can spare her, after covering rent and the bare necessity of groceries. I can send you something then. Pearl squeals with delight. A sound that grates on my nerves, acting as though I've offered her the world instead of the last, meager remnants of my paycheck. The calendar flipped from winter to spring, from spring to summer, and the pattern remained absolutely fixed in place, completely unshakable in its cruelty. I kept sending Christmas gifts home every year, small tokens. Nothing as ambitious or personally significant as those returned lights, but they were still thoughtfully chosen, still an attempt to connect a nice leather wallet for Dad, Mom's favorite as an expensive perfume, a beautiful sketchbook of handmade paper for Pearl's creative spirit. All of it just disappeared into the void of their expectations. The acknowledgement would arrive reliably in late January, a single, mass-produced card, store-bought and completely impersonal, signed in my mother's neat, practiced handwriting. Love from us and Pearl. No personal note, no mention of the gifts themselves, nothing to indicate they were even opened, let alone appreciated, and I would simply tell myself they were just busy, even though the hollow, aching feeling in my chest suggested a much darker reality. This pattern of giving without receiving finally clarified during my junior year in college, when I completely collapsed after a week of high fever and stabbing, agonizing pain. An emergency appendectomy was required, leaving me with a terrifying hospital bill, and of course, absolutely no health insurance. We wish we could help, Mom says over the phone while I stare at the overwhelming hospital bill. Things are tight right now, she told me, her voice dripping with practiced sympathy that somehow felt more insulting than outright denial. It was all the reassurance I needed about my true position in the family hierarchy. My survival, my financial well-being, was never their priority. Their resources were always reserved for the angel. 2 weeks later, the phone call came from Pearl, her voice bubbling with utterly self-absorbed excitement about her upcoming, completely parent-funded European vacation. London, Paris, Rome, all on their dime, while I was left scrambling to cover emergency medical debt. That was the precise moment the realization settled in my stomach. Like a piece of cold, unmovable concrete, my family sees me as a resource, a utility, an ATM, not a daughter or a beloved sister. Pearl, the master manipulator, perfected her timing over those years. Her calls for small loans or tiny, urgent favors always came the day after payday. A timing so precise it often felt like she had somehow gained direct access to my bank statements. Her voice, when she needed something from me, would instantly shift into this delicate, almost heartbreakingly childlike register. The feigned fragility a calculated, honed weapon, intended to disarm my logic and trigger my ingrained guilt. You know, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important, she would whisper, her tone suggesting she was on the verge of imminent, dramatic collapse if I dared to refuse her request. Mother, meanwhile, continued to reinforce the toxic hierarchy with practiced, smooth precision during our monthly, obligation-driven calls. Family is everything, royalty, she would remind me, the word family used as a heavy, crushing chain, and you're the responsible one. We all have our roles to play. The emotional stakes of the dynamic were already clear, but the financial and emotional toll on me was steadily rising, my well-being constantly pitted against their unyielding expectations. Then came the request that changed absolutely everything, the one that broke the camel's back and forced a final confrontation with reality, the $8,000 loan. Pearl called me on a random Tuesday evening, her voice brimming with an unusual, almost believable enthusiasm. I've found the perfect opportunity, she gushed, laying the groundwork for the biggest ask yet. A nail salon for sale in the downtown shopping center. She explained the owner was retiring and miraculously willing to sell it at half the market value. And for the first time, her business plan actually sounded surprisingly solid. Equipment was included, established clientele base, a 6-month projected return on investment. It was almost persuasive. I'll pay you back with interest within 6 months, I promise, she declared, selling the dream. This could be our thing together, sisters in business. And that's what got me. That one manipulative line, sisters in business. A flicker of desperate hope fluttered weakly in my chest. The impossible possibility that this investment, this exchange of money for a shared goal, might finally change the toxic, one-sided relationship with my sister. It felt like an investment in both a tangible business and a better, healthier connection with my own sister. I emptied my entire savings account the very next morning, all 8,000 and gone in a single transfer. 6 months passed, 6 months of silence regarding any repayment or any update on the salon's actual progress, which made the sickening knot of dread grow tighter every day. When I finally gathered the courage to ask about it during a holiday visit home, my hands shaking only slightly, Pearl suddenly excused herself to take an extremely urgent phone call. In the second she was gone, Mother smoothly slid into her vacant seat, patting my hand with that same practiced, infuriatingly empty sympathy, and then the words came, hitting me with a devastating physical blow. There will be no repayment, royalty. There never was going to be. I excused myself to the downstairs bathroom, locking the door firmly behind me, before the tears of crushing realization finally, violently came. The understanding was no longer abstract. It spread through my body like a painful, terminal diagnosis. They truly see me only as a resource, a boundless well, not a beloved daughter or family member. Back at work a few days later, my colleague Marcus noticed my extreme distraction during our design team meeting. He found me later in the break room, listlessly stirring too much sugar into cold, bitter coffee. "You okay? You've checked your phone 6 times in the last hour," he asked with genuine concern. I showed him the latest text message from Pearl, another audacious request for just a small loan, and Marcus studied the text, then looked me square in the eyes, his bluntness a painful, necessary shock. "They treat you like an ATM, not a sister, royalty." Something in his words, the simple, direct clarity, resonated with a painful, undeniable truth, finally illuminating the fog of denial I had lived in. The next week, my college friend Rachel suggested coffee, and listening to my halting, choked-up explanation of the family's brutal dynamics, she said with gentle, firm directness, "Have you considered therapy for these family boundary issues?" 3 days later, I was sitting in a modestly furnished, completely non-judgmental office, facing a therapist with kind, observant eyes and a clean notepad. "They just expect me to give and give," I admitted, the words painful and raw in their honesty, "and I always do it." The therapist, Dr. Mercer, nodded thoughtfully, watching me carefully as I spoke. "What if," she asked, setting down her pen and leaning slightly forward, her gaze intense, "you said no next time?" The simple, earth-shattering question hung in the air like a sudden, blinding revelation. 2 weeks later, Pearl called, this time about expanding the salon business, needing another 50,000 for some new, vital equipment. My newfound clarity, born from that simple question, felt simultaneously immensely empowering and utterly terrifying. "I can't," I said, the word completely unfamiliar and foreign on my tongue. "I don't have it to give. I won't." The silence on the other end stretched out, tense and deep, before Pearl's voice returned, sharper, colder than anything I had ever heard from her. "You've always been so selfish with your money, royalty. So worried about yourself." Mother's fully loaded guilt campaign began within hours, the phone calls relentless. Aunts and uncles called throughout the entire week, each painful conversation a variation on the same theme. "Why are you abandoning your sister when she needs you?" I maintained my boundary despite the crushing, suffocating pressure, repeating the same calm, rehearsed response to every single one. "I've already invested in the business. I cannot contribute any more right now." The calls eventually stopped, a small, fragile victory. Family gatherings instantly became exercises in agonizingly polite distance. And I was definitively cast as the unforgivable villain for the simple, radical act of self-protection. My small victory carried a heavy emotional toll, the quiet family rejection a constant, dull ache beneath my professional smile. Yet something fundamental had shifted deep inside me, a quiet, powerful recognition that I finally, absolutely deserved better than this. The realization didn't magically eliminate the pain, but for the first time, it illuminated a clear, possible path forward out of the darkness. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror at work, studying the face of a woman who had, terrifyingly and wonderfully, begun to recognize her own undeniable worth. The journey ahead looked daunting, overwhelming, and lonely, but for the first time in my life, I truly believed I might actually survive it. 2 days after I finally found the courage to say no, the social media sniping began, and let me tell you, it stung more than it should have, despite all the therapy. Pearl's latest Instagram post was a candid of her staring wistfully out a coffee shop window, captioned with a passive-aggressive, thinly veiled paragraph lamenting how, Some people get so wrapped up in careers they forget what really matters. Painting me as cold in career, obsessed while positioning herself as the wounded party. The victim, and 3 mutual friends had already jumped in with supportive heart emojis and sickeningly sympathetic comments. I closed the app immediately, setting my phone face down on the kitchen counter, recognizing the tactic. This was the 5th post this month, all designed to manufacture public sympathy and apply more guilt. My phone rang again. It was Mom, right on schedule, Tuesday at 7:15 p.m., and I answered, the tension already tightening my shoulders and neck. "Hi, Mom," I said, trying to sound normal. "Royalty." Her voice instantly carried that familiar, heavy weight of disappointment, a tone perfected over 2 decades. "Pearl showed me what you said about not being able to help with her business expansion. I'm very disappointed." I pressed my fingers against my temple, trying to stay calm and factual. "I didn't say I couldn't help, Mom. I said I wouldn't loan her more money when she hasn't repaid the first loan." "That is a boundary, not a lack of care." Her response was the old family mantra, sharp and practiced. "Family doesn't keep ledgers. Royalty. Your sister has 2 children to feed. What do you have? A fancy apartment and designer clothes." The accusations continued for exactly 23 minutes. I know the precise duration, because I watched the call timer tick upward, while making the necessary, appropriate acknowledgement sounds that were required of my role. When she finally paused, I heard Dad's gruff, unused voice in the background. "As that Royalty. Let me talk to her." The phone rustled as it changed hands. "Royalty." Dad's voice was firm and unfamiliar. He called so rarely that hearing him caused me to straighten instinctively, as if I were a child being scolded. "Your mother's disappointed in you." "We all are." The words landed like stones, not because they were surprising. I'd been expecting them, but because they were so completely familiar, the ultimate confirmation of my unimportance. "I understand," I said, the same placating response I had given for years. After the call ended, I sat motionless at my kitchen table, exhausted but resolute. My inbox held an email I had been too afraid to open for 3 days, its subject line reading, "Offers senior designer position. Hayworth Design Group, Los Angeles." I clicked it open and read it again, focusing on the details: a prestigious firm, genuine creative freedom, a significant salary increase, a relocation stipend, and a chance to finally work with clients who appreciated modern vintage fusion design. And, most importantly, it was 2,000 miles from Boulder. I typed 2 words, took a deep breath, and hit send. "I accept." The Thanksgiving table stretched before me a few weeks later, laden with all the traditional dishes, but the atmosphere was anything but festive. Aunt Maggie passed the cranberry sauce, while Uncle Robert carved the turkey, a completely normal holiday scene except for the thick, toxic undercurrent of tension whenever someone addressed me. "Royalty's looking tired these days," Aunt Maggie said, pointedly addressing Mom instead of me. "Must be working too hard. Always was career-focused," Mom replied, giving me a tight, cold smile across the table. "Not everyone prioritizes family." I took a deliberate, slow bite of mashed potatoes, maintaining unwavering eye contact with Mom, silently counting the seconds, until I could leave the suffocating environment. 3 hours later, Pearl approached me as I was helping clear the dishes, her voice dropping instantly to a manipulative whisper. "I hate asking," she began, the familiar script, "but the salon needs new styling chairs. Just a small loan, Father's Ellozin. I swear I'll pay you back by Christmas." "I can't, Pearl," I said quietly, firmly, making sure my voice held no room for negotiation. "I'm sorry, but no." Her face transformed instantly, the sweet, whispered fragility dissolving into rage. Tears filled her eyes immediately, her lower lip trembling dramatically. "But I need this," she said, her voice rising in a carefully controlled crescendo. "How can you be so selfish, after everything we've done for you?" Conversations around us abruptly halted, and all eyes turned our way, exactly as she had planned. "Some people," Pearl said loudly enough for every single relative, every single guest, to hear the accusation, "care more about money than family." The silence that followed was deafening, crushing the room. Dad finally cleared his throat, his voice heavy with expected authority. "Royalty. Perhaps you should reconsider, for the sake of the family." I placed the stack of plates I was holding carefully on the counter, walked straight to the coat closet, grabbed my jacket, and left without another word. No one followed me to the door. 3 weeks later, I was signing a lease on a fantastic Silver Lake apartment in Los Angeles, the realtor handing me the keys with a bright smile. "Congratulations, Ms. Torres. Welcome to your new home." I walked through the empty rooms that smelled deliciously of fresh paint and completely unwritten possibility. The late afternoon light streamed through the west, facing windows, casting long, golden rectangles across the hardwood floors, and for the first time in what felt like my entire adult life, I breathed fully, deeply, without the constant tightness in my chest that had become my unwelcome companion. That evening, I composed an email to my family, deliberately avoiding a call. I calmly informed them of my move, my new job, and my decision to finally start fresh. The words came easily now, factual and completely devoid of emotional plea. I clicked send before the old, fearful me could second guess the decision, and then I silenced my phone for good. The next weeks were a blur of packing, organizing, and furniture planning. I discovered a genuine, powerful joy in selecting furniture that reflected my aesthetic: warm woods, richly textured fabrics, unique vintage pieces mixed seamlessly with modern lines. Each purchase felt like a profound declaration of independence. This space is mine. These choices are mine. No one else's opinion matters here. I didn't hear the frantic knocking at first, too focused on bubble, wrapping a collection of fragile ceramic vases. But when it became insistent, I opened the door to find Mom standing in my hallway, her face flushed with a mix of anger and the exertion of climbing 3 flights of stairs. "You're moving to California," she demanded, pushing past me into the apartment, completely ignoring the concept of personal space. "Without discussing it with your family first. How could you?" I closed the door slowly, deliberately, between us. "I accepted a job offer, Mom. It's an excellent, life-changing opportunity." Opportunity. She spat the word out, treating it like a curse. "You're abandoning us. How could you be so selfish?" The script was familiar, completely unchanged, but the impact was different. Her words didn't land with the same painful force anymore. They merely hovered in the air between us, stripped entirely of their power. "I'm not abandoning anyone," I said calmly, meeting her gaze. "I'm building my life." Finally, Mom's phone rang, and she snatched it up, answering immediately when she saw the caller ID. "Pearl." "Yes, I'm with her now." I could clearly hear Pearl's voice through the speaker, already launching into a fresh round of emotional blackmail. "When needed you here. Royalty. Dad's blood pressure is up again. The doctor says stress is a factor." The implication was clear, heavy, and manipulative. My decisions, my independence, directly caused Dad's health problems. My absence caused their pain, and my independence was selfish and dangerous. I watched Mom's face as she listened, her expression shifting between feigned concern for Dad and clear satisfaction at having another weapon to use against me. "I need to build my own life," I repeated when she ended the call. Mom's eyes narrowed into slits. "If you leave, don't expect us to welcome you back. Ever." The statement was meant to terrify me, meant to bring me to my knees with the ultimate threat of complete family rejection. Instead, it clarified absolutely everything. "I've never felt truly welcomed anyway," I said, the words emerging without bitterness, just simple, quiet truth. Mom left without another single word. I returned to my packing, my hands steady and completely trembling. The next morning, Marcus arrived at 6 to help load the moving truck. Despite the early hour and the freezing temperatures, bringing coffee and bagels. "You're really doing this," he said, lifting a heavy box labeled, "Kai Ti Shishen." "I'm really doing this," I confirmed, smiling. My friend Rachel called as we were finishing the loading. "Check the glove compartment when you get in the truck," she instructed. "Don't peek until you're safely on the road." I found her wonderful care package 3 hours later at a gas station in Nebraska. Homemade cookies, a handwritten playlist titled "Freedom Sounds," and a card that read simply, "Proud of you." The 4-day drive to Los Angeles felt like a physical shedding of my past. With each mile, the invisible, suffocating tether connecting me to Boulder loosened, then broke. My new colleagues welcomed me with genuine interest in my design ideas, and my first client listened attentively, never once questioning my worth or expertise. My therapy sessions continued via video with Dr. Mercer, focusing now on actively building healthy boundaries, rather than just passively surviving their complete absence. "How does it feel to be valued professionally?" she asked during our 3rd remote session. "Foreign," I admitted, "but good, really, truly good." I changed my phone number and set up email filters that directed their messages to a folder I checked only when I felt centered and strong. My Christmas card was simple this year: no gifts, no desperate pleas for approval, just a photo of my new apartment and a brief note of well wishes. Instead of flying home, I hosted a small, perfect dinner party, filling my dining room with the laughter of my chosen family. Later, alone in my living room, watching the lights of Los Angeles through my window, my phone sat completely silent beside me. Their opinion of me is not my reality, I whispered, committing the phrase to memory. On my desk sat my portfolio, the beginning of Casa Row, my aesthetic finally emerging from the shadows of family expectations. My bank account grew steadily, no longer depleted by my sister's business ventures, and my calendar filled with client meetings, instead of obligation-driven visits home. Something shifted inside me, a powerful recognition that the path forward required preparation, knowing that one day, they would try to pull me back into the old patterns. When that day comes, I know I'll be ready, not with anger or resentment, but with clarity and unshakable strength. The night before Christmas, I sat cross-legged on my new sofa, sipping tea from a beautiful handmade ceramic mug. Outside, palm trees swayed against a sky that looked nothing like Boulder's snowy landscape. Inside, every single object, every piece of furniture, reflected choices I had made freely, spaces I had created intentionally. For the first time in my life, the silence felt like profound peace instead of a lonely punishment. I smoothed my hand over the cool, polished concrete countertop in my Silver Lake apartment, admiring how the sharp morning light catches the subtle texture of its surface. 3 years in Los Angeles have completely transformed not just my surroundings, the minimalist furniture, the open space, but my entire being. The defeated, desperate woman who once sent those handcrafted Christmas lights to an uncaring family is long gone, replaced by the successful owner of Casa Row, a design firm whose client waitlist now stretches for months, a testament to my hard-earned worth. My phone just buzzed with an email notification from Architectural Digest. The profile they ran last month, titled, "Royalty Torres Warmth with Boundaries," continues to generate a stream of high-value client inquiries, and the irony of that title is not lost on me. Personal style reflects personal journey, I told the interviewer when she asked about my aesthetic philosophy, but what I didn't say was how every single carefully placed boundary in my designs, the separation of spaces, the intentional use of negative space, perfectly echoed the necessary, hard-won boundaries I'd finally established in my own life. The last debt payment, student loans, old credit cards, every bit of financial obligation, cleared 2 weeks ago, vanishing into the digital ether. My investment portfolio is growing steadily, a true financial fortress built where once only the gaping hole of obligation stood. Dr. Levine, my therapist, says that achieving financial security was my absolutely first step toward establishing emotional security. Though she reminds me constantly that the long journey, through weekly therapy sessions, hasn't always been linear, and I know she's right. I sip my coffee, savoring the bitter, familiar warmth, cherishing these 3 years of profound peace, 3 years of building something that belongs completely and solely to me. Then, yesterday, the peace shattered. The Christmas card is sitting right there on my kitchen island, a beacon of unwelcome contact. It's on high-quality handmade paper with elegant calligraphy, undeniably my mother's signature work. No direct demands this time, no manipulative guilt trips, just basic holiday wishes and a recent family photo: Mom, Dad, and Pearl all smiling artificially before a heavily decorated tree. It's a calculated, strategic reminder of the family connection that arrives precisely when the holidays have begun to make my apartment feel a little too quiet, a little too lonely. My mother, I have to admit, always did have impeccable, brutal timing. The card arrived exactly 2 days after Pearl's extremely formal wedding invitation landed in my mailbox. Family should be together for milestone moments. Read the handwritten, manipulative note tucked inside the envelope. The timing is so calculated it hurts, not coincidental at all, but a deliberate opening salvo. I run my finger along the textured edge of my mother's card, remembering the woman I used to be. 3 years ago, this simple, innocuous gesture would have instantly sent me spiraling down into a pit of guilt, doubt, and panic. Today, it merely registers as what it actually is: a strategic, opening move in a campaign. My phone chimes with a text message from my Aunt Susan. "Sweetie, don't you think it's time to reconcile? Families shouldn't stay apart this long." Then another text, instantly following, from a mutual friend back in Boulder. "Ran into your mom at the grocery store. She misses you terribly, maybe for Christmas." The classic pattern is emerging with crystal clarity now, not a direct, angry confrontation, but a gentle, insidious surrounding, pressure applied softly but persistently from all sides, designed to wear me down. That evening, I sink into the comfortable armchair across from Dr. Levain, the now familiar office wrapping around me like a protective, professional cocoon. They've made contact. I inform her, my hands steady in my lap. Multiple approaches, all within days of each other. Dr. Levain nods slowly, her silver-framed glasses catching the warm office light. And how does that feel, royalty? 3 years ago, I would have struggled, panicked, to even name the emotion. But today, I recognize it immediately, precisely. Fear, I admit honestly, but it's different than before. It's not panic, it's more like apprehension, just waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's significant progress, she says gently, celebrating the small victory. Your body used to respond to family contact with physical symptoms. A racing heart, crippling insomnia. Their tactics don't work anymore. I realize aloud, the truth sinking in, the guilt trips, the automatic expectation that I'll drop everything. I see them for what they are now, just tired old tools. She smiles warmly. Healing isn't linear, royalty. There may still be moments when old patterns feel tempting, especially around the holidays. Be gentle with yourself. I nod, feeling the truth of her words resonate deep within me. I sent a response to the wedding invitation yesterday, brief and completely professional. Regrets that I can't attend, but I included a small gift certificate to a high-end homeware store that Pearl loves, a final, small act of courtesy without obligation. And the Christmas card? Dr. Levain asks. Nothing yet. I reply. I'm allowing myself time to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively, from a place of strength. Remember, you're not the villain in this story, royalty. She leans forward, her words intense and meaningful. You're the survivor. You've built boundaries because they were necessary for your survival, not because you're cold or unfeeling. I let her powerful words settle into the quiet place inside me that, even now, still sometimes whispers the old, damaging family narrative. The predictable escalation of the campaign arrives exactly when I expect it, proving their manipulative coordination. First comes Pearl's frantic text message about an immediate, honeymoon emergency. Car rental troubles in Hawaii, immediate funds needed. Submit your receipts when you return, and I'll see if the travel insurance I recommended covers it. I respond professionally, my fingers steady on the keyboard. 3 years ago, I would have wired money immediately, no questions asked. 2 days later, Mom calls, but my aunt answers first, then urgently contacts me. Your mother's blood pressure spiked dangerously. She's at Boulder General for observation. She's asking for you. I confirm the admission through a nurse friend. Yes, admitted, but for routine monitoring, not a life-threatening emergency, and send a simple reply. Please let her know I hope she feels better soon. Dad's call comes next, the first direct communication in years, his gruff, unfamiliar voice filling my quiet kitchen as I prepare dinner. Royalty, this family is falling apart without you. Your mother's health, Pearl's struggling marriage. You've built your fancy career while we've been suffering. The familiar, crushing accusation hangs between us, but tonight, it slides off me like water, utterly powerless. I'm sorry to hear everyone's having difficulties, Dad. How are you doing personally? My simple, genuine question, focusing on him as an individual instead of the family collective, throws him completely off balance. He stumbles through a quick, inadequate response, then quickly returns to his prepared, familiar script about family obligation. After we hang up, I sit at my kitchen island, breathing deeply, letting the silence settle. The coordinated campaign is now completely transparent, each approach suggesting that my success came directly at their expense. Each message designed to aggressively pull me back into the comfortable role of family provider and supporter. Even Pearl's new husband joins the pathetic effort, leaving a voicemail about an exciting investment opportunity that would benefit everyone in the family. I respond with a simple, clinical email. Please submit any business proposals through the official Casa Ro channels. All investment opportunities undergo standard due diligence procedures. The professional boundary feels like an impenetrable shield, rather than a sword. I'm not punishing them, I'm simply protecting what I have built from scratch. My aunt calls a week later, her voice confused and exasperated. I don't understand you anymore, royalty. Your mother needed comfort, and you sent a text message. What happened to the girl who always put family first? She learned that family goes both ways. I answer quietly, calmly. I care about all of you, but caring doesn't mean sacrificing my own well-being for yours. Pearl says you've gotten cold since moving to California. She presses. Pearl says many things. I reply, surprised by my own complete calm. I've simply learned that love without necessary boundaries isn't sustainable. The silence stretches between us until my aunt finally sighs, defeated. Your mother admitted something yesterday. She said, "Royalty doesn't need us anymore." She sounded almost defeated. The words should hurt, they should sting and wound me, but instead, they simply confirm what I've suspected all along. Their distress isn't about missing me, it's about missing what I provided for them. Christmas approaches with a strange, new sense of peace. My boundaries remain perfectly steady, unwavering despite the escalating, desperate attempts. Pearl's messages grow increasingly erratic and desperate, sprinkled with words like selfish and abandoned family. Dad surprises me with a brief, grudging email acknowledging my latest design award, a small, resentful recognition of my professional success. More revealing is the conversation Pearl's husband has with Marcus when they happen to meet during a business trip to Los Angeles. I always thought Royalty was the problem. He confesses to Marcus over drinks, the way they talked about her. But when she turned down our investment pitch, I started wondering if I'm missing something. Pearl's never satisfied, no matter what anyone does for her. The cracks in their meticulously constructed narrative are widening as my strength holds steady. I've changed, yes, but the change isn't coldness. It's absolute, crystal clarity. The family that once labeled me the strong one now struggles desperately to comprehend a strength that doesn't serve their direct interests. As December deepens, I hang simple white lights around my apartment windows, not as a plea for approval, but as a silent, powerful celebration of light finally returning after a long, difficult darkness. The reflection in the glass shows a woman standing tall, neither burdened nor bitter. When my phone lights up with Pearl's name, I answer the call without the slightest dread. "Merry Christmas, Pearl," I say, my voice steady, peaceful, and unbreakable. 3 years ago, I sent handcrafted lights that returned unwanted to my doorstep, a symbol of my rejection. Today, I offer only what I can give freely, courtesy without complete surrender, connection without absolute submission. The tables have truly turned, and I am still standing, stronger than ever. The email arrives in early December, its timing calculated exactly 3 weeks before Christmas, striking while the emotional iron is hot. I stare at my mother's name in my inbox, fingers hovering over the delete button, before a surge of professional curiosity wins out. "We want to redecorate for Christmas this year. Who better than our talented designer?" The message reads, oozing false charm. "Pearl says your work is all over those fancy magazines now. We need someone with your eye for detail. Pearl's second baby is coming in February, you know. You wouldn't want to miss Christmas with both grandkids, would you?" Ellie asks about her aunt sometimes. I set my coffee down, the familiar, rising pressure building behind my eyes. 5 long years of carefully constructed boundaries, and they still genuinely think I'll drop everything for a calculated hint of family access. The implicit exchange is clear: my professional design services, easily worth 5 figures, in exchange for a temporary, conditional seat at their Christmas table. My phone buzzes instantly. Aunt Lydia's number. "Royalty, honey, it's been too long," she says, her voice dripping with practiced, oily concern. "Christmas is about family. Don't you think it's time to make peace for the holidays?" "I appreciate your call, Aunt Lydia," I reply, keeping my voice steady, professional. "But my schedule is fully booked through January. Your mother is heartbroken. We all are." Before I can respond, a text notification appears: Uncle Robert, then Cousin Samantha. The coordinated campaign has officially begun. Later that evening, Pearl's manipulative voicemail arrives, her voice breaking in all the right, calculated places. "The kids don't even know their aunt. Ellie asked Santa to meet you for Christmas." How do I explain that her aunt doesn't want to see her? I delete the message, but the weight of the child's name lingers, a sharp, manipulative sting. Then comes the email I never expected from Dad: "Royalty. This punishment has gone on long enough. Your mother misses you. We all do. Whatever grievances you're holding on to, isn't family worth more?" I close my laptop and walk straight to the window of my Silver Lake apartment. Los Angeles lights shimmer below, a world away from Boulder's snowy winter landscape. I've built a life here, brick by agonizing brick, client by trusting client, a life where my entire worth isn't measured by what I can give to others. My assistant's voice breaks through my deep thoughts. "Royalty, I have an interesting inquiry I think you should see." The email she forwards is from Alina R., requesting design services for a Colorado mountain home. The address instantly stops my heart: my parents' house. "Send me the contract they signed," I say quietly. Minutes later, the electronic signature appears on my screen. Pearl Rays. I scan the detailed requirements, instantly recognizing my mother's specific preferences woven throughout the text. The same rustic, modern aesthetic she had explicitly described in her earlier email, down to the ridiculous family heirloom display she had mentioned wanting for Pearl's childhood keepsakes. 5 years of therapy, 5 years of self-work, has given me complete clarity. This isn't love. It's not even family. It's a disgusting, desperate manipulation dressed up as a simple, heartfelt reconnection. I'm drafting my final, professional response when my phone rings, an unknown Colorado number. I nearly ignore it, but something compels me to answer. Hello. A small, sweet voice trembles across the line. Aunt Royalty. This is Ellie, Mommy Pearl's daughter. My body instantly freezes solid before my half-decorated Christmas tree, its twinkling lights mocking the emotional intensity of the moment. The child is 5 now, a fact I know only from distant social media glimpses and filtered family updates. Hello, Ellie. I manage my professional calm, instantly abandoning me. Mommy said you don't like us. Is that true? Is that why you never come see us? The innocent question lands like a devastating, physical blow, the true raw consequence of their manipulation. I close my eyes, caught in the ethical, moral tornado between absolute honesty and the need to protect an innocent child from ugly, adult complexities. No, sweetheart, I say softly, the lie necessary for her innocence. That's not true. That's a grown-up story. Then why don't you ever come home? I sink onto my couch, searching desperately for words a 5-year-old could possibly understand. Sometimes grown-ups need time apart to figure things out, Ellie. It doesn't mean I don't care about you. I'm learning to draw houses, she offers suddenly, her voice shifting back to childlike excitement. Mummy says you make beautiful houses for people. I do. I'd love to see your drawings sometime. I reply, meaning it completely. Really? The hope in her voice is genuine, untainted by adult manipulation. Really? And I'm going to send you something very special for Christmas, okay? Just for you. After a few more minutes of surprisingly sweet conversation about her favorite colors and animals, I end the call with genuine, heartfelt care, not the manufactured emotion her mother clearly expected this manipulative conversation to extract. I sit in silence for exactly 5 minutes, then open my laptop. My response to Alina R. is brief, cold and professional. I do not take projects from clients using false identities. Wishing the family a peaceful holiday. Then I create a new email, addressed to my entire family, BCCing my assistant. I attach all the damning screenshots, my mother's original design request, the fake client inquiry, and Pearl's signature on the fraudulent contract. My message is simple, final, and crushing. My design services are not available to family. Deception is not the foundation for reconciliation. Please respect my professional boundaries, as you would any other designers. No accusations, no emotional language, just cold facts and final boundaries. For Ellie, I select a small, vintage kaleidoscope from my personal collection. A beautiful one that transforms ordinary light into something magical when you look at things differently. I wrap it carefully and address it without a return label, the box completely anonymous. Inside, I tuck a simple, small note. From someone who always hopes you'll be loved the right way. The inevitable, angry responses come quickly. Mother's frantic voicemail, Pearl's enraged text. How dare you embarrass us like this after everything we've done for you? I let them all go to voicemail, to message archives, to the digital place where their power over me used to live and thrive. This is my victory, not through vengeance or anger, but through the power of my chosen values, not through angry confrontation, but through the calm power of chosen response over desperate, reactive engagement. The final boundary is firmly established, respect as a non-negotiable prerequisite for any future relationship. I place my phone on silent and return to decorating my tree, each ornament now representing a one piece of the life I've successfully built, the career, the friendships, the peace. The peace that comes from the final, internal realization that my worth does not, and will never, depend on their recognition. Outside my window, Los Angeles continues to sparkle, a constellation of lights forming new patterns, new, exciting possibilities. In 3 weeks, this apartment will host true friends who see me clearly, who will share food and laughter and genuine, unconditional connection. And somewhere in Boulder, a little girl will open a beautiful kaleidoscope and discover that sometimes, just sometimes, things look completely different when you finally hold them up to the light. I arrange the final, perfect amber candle on my Silver Lake dining table, its warm glow catching the hammered copper chargers beneath the handmade stoneware plates. Christmas Eve in Los Angeles feels nothing like Boulder's snowy evenings. Yet somehow, profoundly, it feels more like Christmas than any I've ever truly experienced before. The table is set for 8, gleaming under the modern pendant lights I designed myself, ready for the colleagues, neighbors, and friends who have become more than just categories now. They are my chosen family. Marcus adjusts a centerpiece of eucalyptus and white roses, while Rachel arranges her grandmother's famous stuffing recipe, alongside my calabasitas and handmade tamales. Traditional flavors are mixing seamlessly with California sensibilities, a perfect reflection of my life now. Perfect, I whisper, surveying the space that once echoed with anxious phone calls and trembling hands. Tonight, it radiates security, peace, a true home built entirely on choice, rather than soul-crushing obligation. My gaze drifts to the mantel where a small, wrapped package sits prominently displayed in a shadow boxy. The Christmas lights, returned unopened 5 years ago. What once felt like a crippling wound now serves as powerful, symbolic art, a daily reminder of how incredibly far I have traveled and what I survived. The same situation. The holidays without biological family. But an entirely different, peaceful outcome. When everyone has arrived, I raise my glass, the crystal tinkling softly. To finding family in unexpected places, I say, my voice steady with peaceful acknowledgement, no longer seeking approval, but giving genuine, heartfelt appreciation instead. And to boundaries, adds Rachel with a significant wink. Beautiful, healthy, necessary boundaries. Everyone laughs, but the recognition runs deep. These people know my story. They've witnessed my long, difficult journey. The conversation flows easily through dinner, rich with actual interest and care, rather than strained obligation. I notice my own ease in this wonderful gathering, no longer performing the expected role of the strong one, by default, but comfortably expressing both my strength and my necessary vulnerability as each moment requires. Remember when you thought asking for help with that huge Henderson project meant you were failing? Marcus says, refilling my wine glass. I nod, smiling at the memory of my past fear. Took me forever to recognize that needing support isn't a weakness, it's just human. And now you're mentoring that kid from UCLA, says Jenna from my design team. Sophia, I correct gently. Her family background isn't unlike mine sometimes. Just knowing that someone else made it through similar waters makes all the difference in the world. Later, as we move to the living room for dessert, I glance at my leather journal on the side table, this morning's entry still fresh in my mind. Therapist says maintaining boundaries for 5 years deserves celebration. Maybe the real gift was learning my worth wasn't measured by family validation. Marcus raises his glass again. To royalty, who showed us all how to reign over our own lives. Rachel's smile across the room carries the weight of full witness. She's been there from the start. When I couldn't distinguish between giving from a joyful choice and giving from a desperate, crushing obligation. My colleagues lift their glasses too, people who respect both my boundaries and my talent equally. The warmth of freely given appreciation wraps around me like a comforting blanket. Jennifer, my neighbor from across the hall, touches my arm gently. That advice you gave me about my parents' holiday guilt trip saved my sanity, she whispers, her eyes shining with relief. First Christmas I haven't spent in tears. I squeeze her hand warmly. Family is earned, not just born. Jennifer, I tell her. You're not cold for having requirements. After dessert, I slip away briefly, returning with a small, beautifully wrapped gift. For you, I say, handing Jennifer a small box containing handcrafted string lights, similar to the ones on my mantel. Her eyes question me. Some lights aren't meant to be returned, I explain quietly. They're meant to guide us home, to ourselves. Hours later, after all the goodbyes and promises to meet again soon, I stand alone beside my Christmas tree, bathed in the soft, peaceful glow. The doorbell rings unexpectedly, a late delivery, an anonymous envelope with my mother's unmistakable handwriting. I open it slowly, a simple, subdued card, no demands, no manipulation, just basic holiday wishes. In the past, this one tiny gesture would have completely unraveled me, but tonight, I simply place it on the mantel, without any emotional turmoil. A peaceful acknowledgement of connection without surrendering my precious, necessary boundaries. I move to the window, watching the glittering Los Angeles lights twinkling far below. My phone lights up with a single text from Ellie, Pearl's daughter. Thank you for my special gift, Aunt Royalty. It makes everything look sparkly. A small, Genuine opening for relationship on healthy terms, perhaps. Not the dramatic, explosive reconciliation Pearlwood script, but something slow, something authentic, something real instead. My journal lies open on the side table. I pick up my pen and write the final, confident entry of the year. This year, I finally have a family. One I chose myself, one that chose me. Silence isn't coldness, it's a boundary built by someone who once cared too much about the wrong things. And Christmas doesn't need a crowd, it only needs the right people.